UFC 284 is going to be one hell of an event. We'll be seeing two superstar fighters go up against each other, a fight that's been in the works for a long time now. Yes, it's none other than the lightweight title bout. Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev. Alex Volkanovski, the UFC featherweight champion, will fight Islam Makhachev, the new lightweight champion, at UFC 284 in February. The company announced this before UFC 281. As I said, they've been building it up for a long time now. If Volkanovski wins, he'll join Conor McGregor, Daniel Cormier, Amanda Nunes, and Harry Cejudo as the fifth fighter in UFC history to hold two belts at the same time. What a list that is. He's already ranked as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the promotion. The event will take place at the RAC Arena in Perth, Australia. Volkanovski will be fighting in his home country for the first time since 2018, and for the first time as UFC champion.
Herzog standing by, giving Elkins every benefit of the doubt. Where's the horn? They go to the grounds. There it is.
Who doesn't love competing in front of their home crowd, right? The middleweight fight between Volkanovski's fellow Australian Robert Whittaker and former title challenger Paulo Costa is also on the UFC 284 card. It was also announced that Yair Rodriguez would fight Josh Emmett for the interim featherweight title at the same event. But when we talk about the main event, there's a lot to uncover, especially with what Alexander feels about the fight. He thinks people are undermining him. Alexander Volkanovski says that people have forgotten about his escapes from Brian Ortega.
All right, down the stretch here, final seconds of this championship fight, and a late takedown for Volkanovski. The first real takedown. Incredible.
The Australian fighter is sure that he has made the changes he needs to handle Islam Makhachev. Things will get interesting if their UFC 284 lightweight title fight turns into a wrestling match, which many people think it will. Makhachev, on the other hand, says that Volkanovski could not have gotten better than him in wrestling because of how much he knows and how good he is at it.
I think what's going to be interesting to see who has the advantage. Oh, big left hand on the set. Wow.
Islam Makhachev.
Talk about confidence. He talks about the Dagestani background that's made a big impression on the UFC. When the two men met in Sydney on Sunday, it set the stage for one of the most anticipated UFC fights in recent memory. The fight will be between ESPN's number 1 and 2 pound-for-pound fighters. The promotional event was just a quick stopover for Islam on his long trip to Perth. The event in Sydney was most probably an interruption for both fighters. You might ask, why? Well, they're focused on their training. The lightweight champion will finish his last few weeks of training in Perth, while Alexander will keep training at his freestyle fighting base, which is 2 hours south in Sydney. Alexander thinks that he's improved his wrestling and ground game to the point where he can beat Makhachev, or at least give him a chance to hurt Makhachev with his strikes. I just hope they go back and forth and give us a fight that'll be remembered. Volkanovski told ESPN that his current camp is definitely longer than most of his other camps. The reason for a longer camp is due to his team not going crazy too early, but wanting to get all that wrestling in and build a really good base for the allocated 8 weeks. Instead, they decided to go in early and get somewhat of an advantage, if one exists. They did a few smart things for sure. They set the camp up by bringing in the wrestling coaches and jiu-jitsu guys pretty early to work on certain things. That way, when the time came to really get fit and ready to fight, plan the game, Alexander's team was in the right place. So overall, we could say they're doing not too bad. There's another thing that the Australian is prepping, and that's knowing how to deal with the people around him. We can handle all the talk for sure. Volkanovski beat Chang Sung Yung and Max Holloway, the latter for the third time, with some devastating strikes in 2 fights in 2022.
Seconds. Holloway with a late floating. Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway go the distance.
They set him up to move up to lightweight and try to become a double champion. My man's going through the process, step by step. Even though neither fight required much wrestling, Volkanovski thinks that some UFC experts and fans have written him off against Islam. People have forgotten what he did to escape Ortega's grasp at different points of their UFC 266 featherweight title fight in 2021. Everyone is saying that this fight is different, but Volkanovski told ESPN, "I'm different."
Volkanovski with an incredible pace here, too. He's just putting a lot of pressure on Mendez. Rip into the body, he drops him.
That's it. Alexander huge.
Wow.
He emphasized the fact that people will talk all day long and does admit Islam's a great fighter and respects him too. But here's the catch. He said in the interview that he's not just a regular fighter who will do what everyone else does. As per the Australian, he does things differently and trains differently too, and that's what sets him apart. Either way, we'll find out everything in the fight. On the other hand, Islam doesn't really like to talk much, but when he does, it's facts. He knows where he stands. Makhachev won the lightweight title by submitting Charles Oliveira in the second round of UFC 280. The Dagestani fighter used an arm triangle choke to finish the fight in style. Makhachev has won 4 of his last 5 fights by submission.
Makhachev trying to set up a submission here, DC.
Yep, and you know, these guys do combat sambo their entire lives, you know, so if you present an opportunity to get a sub, it's over. He'll go get it. There it is. He's got the arm.
And there's the tap.
Another big finish for Islam.
Which shows how good he is at wrestling and grappling. This is why he's the favorite to end Volkanovski's 22-fight win streak. Makhachev told ESPN, "I'm a good wrestler because I'm from Dagestan. Dagestan is the best country for wrestling in the world. We're a small country, but we have won a lot of medals at the Olympics. Wrestling is our traditional sport. Anyone, even an Uber driver, will tell you that everyone wrestles in the country." He told us fans in the interview that when people in their country are kids, they wrestle in the streets and other places. But that's why all Dagestani fighters are good at wrestling. To beat a fighter who's good at wrestling, you can't just train for a few months. You have to wrestle your whole life. From what he said in the interview, wrestling is not like kickboxing or striking. Anyone can get better at striking in a few months, but I think you have to wrestle your whole life to get good at wrestling. And wrestling isn't the only thing Alexander has to worry about for this fight. He's got other things to take into consideration too. Volkanovski said he hoped to enter the octagon at around 167.5 pounds for his first UFC fight at lightweight. He stressed that he couldn't let any extra weight take away from his speed and footwork, which had helped him get to the top of the pound-for-pound rankings. Volkanovski said, "We had to get bigger, and that's what we did early on in camp. We did a lot of wrestling and other things like that. Now it's a matter of getting it to the right weight." The Australian feels much stronger, and we've all noticed that. But one thing you don't want to forget is that he's fast and has the speed advantage. The guy can move around and do things that require speed out of him. All he's got to do is find the right balance between strength and power while also working on sharpness and movement, because we know that's where it all starts to come together in the next 4 or 5 weeks. But the fighter is confident that all things will eventually line up and work out for him. So let's hope they actually do. And the same goes for Islam. I'm not being biased. I just want to see a good fight. And that's all we have for today. Who do you think will win the main event fight at UFC 284? Islam or Alexander? See you in the next one.